if you say something so we can tell if we can hear you on our screen here, please.
I can hear all of you just fine.
Wonderful, we can hear you as well, thank you. All right, so I'm going to give my computer to the team when it's time for them to present, so you'll be able to see them and hear them, and they'll be able to share the screen to put the presentation up. So we're hoping this is going to work. All right, so we'll go ahead and turn it over to our chairperson.
Okay, well, welcome everybody, it's Wednesday, March 9th. Can you believe it's March? Other than the traffic, you can tell, right? How long did it take you to get here, Bill? 2 hours?
About an hour.
We're down in Estero, so we used to do these meetings, remember a couple years ago, we tried at 5:30. It was almost impossible.
Yeah.
But welcome, thank you. Sorry I was absent last month. I had some family illness that we had to go take care of, and then I decided to work out of our Chicago office that week, so I was confident Bill would handle it, and he did more work than we've done all year in that one meeting, so. So that was good. Did everybody receive the agenda? Yes. And review it? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. How about the February 9th meeting minutes? I could not really verify if they were accurate or not, so do I have a motion to approve them?
I'll make the motion.
A second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, we're moving along. So tonight we have, it says Human Resources,
Yes.
AKA HR. So welcome to our meeting. We're interested in seeing what you have to say. I have one question well, I'll wait to see if you answer it. But I guess we'll turn it over to you right now.
Sure.
Yep.
All right, let me do quick introductions.
Sure.
So we have Rob Dodick, who you might recognize as being a former attorney for the district, and we're very happy to have him back. He is now Executive Director of HR. We also have Suzette Rivera, who is our Assistant Director for Recruitment, and we have Dr. Shelley Halstead, who is our HR, I don't know your official title, project director, project manager, project coordinator, one of those. Shelley's amazing. This team is just a dynamite team. So I'm going to hand my computer over to them so that they can share the screen, and we'll get started with their presentation. Thank you, Sophie. You're welcome.
So thank you to the committee that's present and the part of the committee that's on Zoom. We're pleased to be here and thank you for the introductions. I don't know if we can live up to that, but we think we're pretty good, but we'll leave that to others. About 3 weeks to a month ago, or maybe even a little longer, we did a significant presentation to the school board about the issues we're having relative to hiring and retention, which is, I think most of you realize, a nationwide problem. And we provided a bunch of data and a bunch of information that's available on the web under the school board's meetings. But we also thought, when Cindy contacted us and said you all would like to hear from us, that we could use some of that presentation and cut it down to a much shorter period of time. I have to understand we have about 45 minutes from this point, okay? And instead of just doing questions and answers, we may be able, as Mr. Raznick said, to answer some of your questions that you may have already in your mind about things we're doing regarding retention and recruitment. So, but having said that, I think one of the first things we need to do is sort of amplify for you all or tell you all sort of where we're at. So we'll go through this slideshow or PowerPoint, and Suzette and Shelley and I will jump in when something is relevant to us. Unfortunately, the Zoom box is gonna kind of cut off, so let's see if Shelley can diminish that. Yeah, there you go. And we don't have to see each other. So this is data that was taken in October of 21, so it's somewhat dated now, about 6 months out. But this is nationwide data from EdWeek that asks school districts about their staffing shortages in their school districts. And as you can see on the left, at that time, that was October, they were certainly severe to moderate. So this is pre-Omicron, and I will just tell you, as the school district goes, we were planning during the summer here for a normal school year. I mean, we thought, as I'm sure most of you did in your industries, that we were behind or we were ahead of COVID and things were gonna be somewhat normal. So even back in October, before Omicron really hit, school districts were already experiencing significant shortages. This sort of reflects the same thing, issues we're having. If you look, substitute teachers is one of the top areas where districts are having issues. Bus drivers, if you are aware of things in Lee County, you know that we're about 100 bus drivers short on a daily basis, depending on the way things are going. Paraprofessionals is another huge area for us, and then teachers, and then it goes down the line. So these are all areas similar to those districts around the nation that we are experiencing hiring issues in. Yes?
Will you forward us this are we allowed to have
Absolutely,
this presentation? So then,
yes.
Bill, you don't have to look like a tourist.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So, as I said, that was in October, we go to November, and things are starting to worsen. Of course, that's the height of Omicron, around Thanksgiving-ish. But if you look, compared to the beginning of the school year, this was taken, how have things gotten? And of course, the dark blue there says they are 52% more severe than they were at the beginning of the school year. So, and I will tell you, I came back on board in September, and I came in September and I thought, oh man, this is not good. Didn't realize it could get worse, and it got worse here too also. I wanna knock on wood, we're sort of making a little bit of a comeback. I mean, our attendance for students today is the lowest it's been all year.
Wow.
So,
Oh,
absences, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the highest it's been all year, attendance, and we're sort of seeing parallel from staff. So I think the pandemic,
Is it endemic?
no, it's not ending, but at least at this point, we're getting a reprieve of
That's what
some
they're
sort.
calling it.
Yeah, when it switches from pandemic
Right,
to the
to
more
endemic.
endemic, that's a good thing.
So right now, let me ask a
It's like
question.
Sure.
So right now, what percent of the students are absent?
Today, yeah, we had 8,000 absences today out of 90,000 students.
What would that have been 3 years ago before?
That's a good question, I don't have that information, but I can tell you 3 months ago.
Yeah.
We had days where there were 17,000 students out,
20%.
so,
The
Yeah.
curiosity of 10% today, how does that compare to 3 years ago?
right.
We have data from, I have to go back and look, we have some of that.
Yeah, I'm sure
Not
there's
necessarily for this week, but we have it where we've been sending to the board for a while.
Yeah, we had some in the board update, and I think a couple of years ago, it was like maybe less than 3,000.
Okay. So that would be a normal day is less than 3,000.
Right.
So this slide is our termination history, essentially since July. I'll let Shelley talk a little bit about this, she's the data person.
So one of the things we like to do is we like to look at national data and survey information that we can get on that broader level, or sometimes the state level if we can get it. But we also like to look at our own internal data and see where we stand compared to that. One of the things that we've looked at, so the full board presentation, Mary, if you remember, had how much data? A lot, right? So I picked some highlights for tonight, but there is more out there, and then there's even more than that. But one of the things we use to frame the issue is just looking at raw counts of terminations. You'll see the one side and the left side is instructional, and the right side is non-instructional. And the colors represent years. So the current year, FY22, those are gonna be the orange ones, or the bottom row. The FY21 last year is the middle row in blue, and then the top row is FY20, so that's the year before. And what you can see, the last year and this year for instructional, this is by month through January, it's not that different. So by January in FY21, we had 248. By January of this year, we had 253. If you look at the non-instructional side, there's a significant difference between the 343 and now the 504 in this year. And so that speaks to what Mr. Dodig was talking about with the bus drivers and the paraprofessionals and the issues we're having around that.
And what we're fighting in those areas, of course, with support staff is the Amazons, the Walmart, other entities that are taking some of these workers that we've been used to having in the district and offering them considerable amounts of money that at this point, we just can't match. I mean, it's just not fiscally possible because we're just not receiving that type of money from the state.
Target in this.
So these are really
25.
resignations, they aren't people you terminated.
Correct.
No,
Oh,
correct.
yes.
Alright.
So
No.
let me clarify just a few words, terminology. That's an
I
excellent
don't know
question.
why you would use that word, termination.
Well, termination is to terminate your relationship with the district for one
It
reason
sends
or
the wrong
another.
message, makes it sound like you got rid of them.
So in this case, they could have died.
Corporate America, that's what we say, you
Right,
got terminated.
I
Right, no, I understand, but and I can change it in the future, but just to clarify, when we say termination, we mean someone that has terminated their relationship with us, their employment relationship. And this could include retirements, it could be people that died, it could include people whose spouse moved and they went to another state.
It could include what you
It could
refer
be
to as
and
a
people that
termination. It could be that,
we
it is that also, that we may
terminate,
have like,
yeah.
oh,
So both voluntary and involuntary.
right.
And then we look at instructional and non-instructional. For us, instructional are all kinds of teaching staff, so anyone under the TALC contract. Non-instructional are all of our support staff, whether they're in a school or not. The other two categories we have are administrators, which are primarily school-based principals and APs, but also any district level administration. And then we also have a casual category that we use for guest teachers. So when we're talking about instructional, again, that's all of our teaching staff, whether they're in the classroom or not, and then non-instructional is all of our support staff, whether they're in the school or not.
So the next slide, we conduct a survey each year of our instructional staff and our non-instructional staff. We just finished this year's, so we don't have the data all compiled yet. That's one of Dr. Halstead's jobs, and it's tedious. But this is from the previous year, and if you look at the last 2 years, the number one reason people have left is essentially retirement. And then above that is inadequate salary or performance pay. So, or pay, which you would probably expect. I mean, our teachers start currently at $47,300 a year. We have to quickly get to $47,500 because the governor and legislature have mandated that. But it's important to note on that point that state provided us funds to do that 2 years ago, but did not provide funds for teachers that would be considered veteran teachers, teachers in the middle of the salary schedule. So the state funded a starting teacher salary, but did not help us in any way financially for those in the middle or at the top of the salary schedule. And so we're dealing with major compression issues on our teacher salary plan because of that. And then you see some of the other areas that are up there. Shelley, you want to add anything?
The main difference, the reason you see two bars here, the blue or the top bar, those were responses to people who, the survey was held in November, who said they were planning on terminating their employment relationship with the district by the end of the year. And the ones that are orange are people that said in 1 to 2 years.
Right.
And so those are people that we potentially have more time with to hopefully retain them. But we also, these results were from November, so it gives us some time to kind of look at these things and see if we can address them for people.
What concerns us on a daily basis and keeps us up at night is right now, because of the shortage, we can't afford to lose anybody for any reason. So even the retirements, we understand some of these folks may be in drop or have plans for retirement, but we need to try to even get them to stay because we need all of the classroom people we can get at this point.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, Ramey, you can go ahead.
The ceiling speaks.
Thank you. Why is this data being tabulated and surveyed through SurveyMonkey? It just seems to me, obviously I work in the private sector, but
this is a very impersonal way to check with staff to see how they're doing. I mean, my advice would be stop doing this.
Any
Have the
suggestions?
principals and
Any suggestions?
administrators-
Rainey,
Yeah.
it's Rob, any suggestions? Because I've heard this before.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like, I've worked for Lee Health in the past in very big corporations, and I would say the Survey Monkey is impersonal. I don't know the accuracy of results that you get on these. So I think sometimes if you can have, break it down to your departments, have department heads talk with staff, have principals talk to teachers. And I consider myself to have a pretty good pulse on what's going on. I would think the working conditions, people exiting because of that is probably higher than what's calculated on this. And I think part of the working conditions would be that communication piece if you're administrator. Just talk.
So,
Not phrase.
yeah. So individually interviewing staff on a survey is, with 12,000 employees, is virtually impossible for us to do with the current staffing level we have. So we have to use some type of automated function. That's why I asked you, maybe because of your experience, if you had any other ideas for us to possibly use some other vehicle than SurveyMonkey. That's what I was asking.
Did
we lose her?
I think it was an internet connection.
Yeah.
I did have one
Sure.
question, I guess. I see a couple of things on here, so whenever I look at these kinds of factors, I think, what is within the district's control that would make the most impact? So a couple of things I see here, like leadership at work location, general working conditions, those seem like things that would be within the district's
Correct.
control, that would have the, it looks like a significant impact on immediate terminations, because those are the people that are saying, I'm gonna leave this year.
Sure.
So I'm wondering, what takes place for those, targeting those specific factors that are easily within the district's control versus things like retirement, where
Yeah.
people are gonna retire no matter what.
So, I mean, I can answer generally speaking. I mean, obviously, there's a constant, we have an executive director of leadership and professional development, Lynn Harrell, who some of you may know. Her focus is that. So, the feedback from this type of information leads us to, obviously, PD, professional development, and things like that, to try to coach those leaders at the work locations where we may be suffering from this type of thing. So there has to be, and I agree with you, that's a significant piece, and really more than a significant, very significant piece. And leadership at this stage of the game is so important. And a leader from yesterday that may have been all about processing and making sure things get done and test scores may not be as useful as a leader today who has to be empathetic and compassionate and respect the time of staff and things like that. So there's sort of a transformation going on in leadership. And sometimes, because of certain factors, school districts are slow to react to that. And I'm not gonna say we're immune from that. So those are certainly areas that we have to work on.
Can I add something about this? I'm sorry, do you mind? So this is one question from a survey. This is a survey that we, as Mr. Godick mentioned, we just did again this year. We've been doing it since FY17. This particular one we had, I believe, was a 74% response rate out of 5,800 teachers. And this is just one piece of it. We added this piece because, as you'll see in a minute, we do have exit data around people, but we wanted to look at this more proactively before they leave. Having said that, the other pieces of the survey, there's research-based questions that come from Gallup engagement, that kind of research, as well as research into teacher efficacy. And we look at those questions and the responses to those questions against people's satisfaction with their location. So we can see what are the things that are truly driving satisfaction for our teachers and what areas we need our leadership to focus on the most. And then over the years, we've looked at offering training around those things, programs around those things. We've done project teams both in Green and Lean Six Sigma. We've done innovation teams and workshops to try and address the different factors that we find. So this is one piece of a really comprehensive body of work that we've been doing. And there's always opportunity to improve it, to investigate other things, to make different connections, and so we're completely open to that. But I did want to point out that there's this broader work that I would love to talk about for the rest of the night, but I'm sure that we don't want to hear all of it.
So
right
I'm
now.
guessing that you track those numbers year to year,
Yes,
right, to
yes.
Okay, so just doing the math, you say you had about a response of 74%, something like that? So about a third of the staff overall took the survey.
Teachers.
74% of the, so 74% would be 3/4 of the staff.
No, time. You said you had 12,000 staff members.
Sorry,
This
that's the whole district.
So this is only teachers that took
Yes,
this survey?
Correct.
About
Instructional staff.
Okay, you had
5,800
15%.
instructional staff, so 74% of that 5,800.
Cool, to actually responded.
Yes.
Do you guys have a breakdown, like when it says leadership at location or whatever, is this respondents by school? How do you get back the survey? Do it come back by school?
We do have, so this particular piece is only people that said they're leaving, which is much smaller
Right, it's broken
subset
down.
of the response group. But we do create individual school reports for every single location on the results of the survey. And we have been doing that for years now, so that the schools can use that as a formative piece in terms of when they're planning and working with their staff.
So when we're talking about like the leadership or, for instance, so each particular school, you have the data for that particular school based on the staff comments?
Yes, it's broken down by location.
Can we get that based on a percentage of what this percentage is by schools?
All of the school reports are
Or somewhere?
are available, so I don't know
Well, I'm
what
talking about
process
like,
we're
so for
getting this.
instance, when we're seeing this report, like I wanna see this broken down, like what the kids at, the people at Fort Myers Middle, the people at Fort Myers High, people at Lehigh.
This data set for this particular thing is a really small subset of the larger set, and there may not be enough for individual schools to actually look at individual schools for this particular thing.
So
So
then,
we have
so
the
then
larger
my question
reports.
is, how do we get to knowing which schools people are saying, this is not a good school, I wanna leave because this ain't a good place, and the leadership is not good?
The larger reports that we've done, the climate reports.
Where do we get those at? To see like what people are saying about the actual schools in these.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a
Public
public
records
records
request.
request. We just don't hand that out,
I just need to
obviously.
know what I'm requesting then, if somebody can tell me what I will be
The school
requesting.
climate reports.
School climate report. And that gives the surveys from SurveyMonkey in it.
It gives the climate reports that are created for the schools after the analysis of all the data.
Okay, gotcha.
Thanks.
So, as we were just talking about, the what we just looked at is from the annual climate survey. And that information is a survey of people that are still with us. This exit survey, we have two versions of an exit survey. So when an employee leaves, we have this for instructional staff and for non-instructional staff. We have a supervisor version, so we get the supervisor's perspective on the reasons that they're leaving. And then the next slide, you'll see there's the employee version where we get the employee's view on the reasons for leaving. And in this case, the previous slide, they had to select one, what the primary reason was. In this case, every reason could be equally important. They could say that it had 0 influence up to 10 being the highest level of influence. And so you can see the instructionals on the left, non-instructionals on the right. The FY22 data is not a full year of data. So it's we have it there for comparison because it matters. However, there might be some that will increase toward the end of the year because there's some things that typically happen at the end of the year that do not happen mid-year.
So it's important to point out, Shelley did, that this is required of supervisors when someone leaves. So this is not permissible, meaning you can just do it if you want to or not. This is required. The next slide will show the exit interview data or survey data from the employees or the former employees. We have no way, as do most employers, of forcing a former employee to fill out a survey. So we rely on them, we send them a link, and we hope that they would help us understand why they are leaving. We have had a lot of discussion over the past couple of months with the board about doing this in a more robust fashion, trying to figure out why people are leaving in a more significant way than maybe just a survey. That's something that we've sort of, I don't wanna say been charged with, what we've been asked, is there a way for us to do that? So we are undertaking that work. It's not easy, as you know, to ask people why they left somewhere, and get them to respond. So, we can't hold their last paycheck or something like that, which has been suggested to me. So we're trying to figure out how we can maybe get more participation from exiting employees. Yeah, Ron?
What does the district spend a year on
Alright,
this
I
survey?
have a question on that.
Just a minute, we have someone
Ron
leave.
is asking a question.
I was just wondering, what's the current cost that the district spends a year on this program for surveys?
Survey Monkey?
I couldn't answer that.
Can I get a cost for that? Or can I, how do I find out that? Or who I would,
I can find that out, I just don't remember.
okay.
I don't think it's,
It's not a lot,
It's budgeted
no, Survey
for
Monkey is not a lot of
it's
money
not
at all,
expensive.
it's more the reviewing the data, your staff that's massaging the data,
Exactly.
but you got that internal cost, it's part of their salaries.
right,
Survey Monkey does not charge a lot of money.
No.
A lot of money.
Yeah, it's
You don't really-
expensive.
Ramey, you're good.
Yeah, I can, on this situation, I can say, I think Lee Health, I think we've got a couple other Lee Health employees in this meeting, and Lee Health has a great system for when people leave. You have to turn in your keys and your badge and like whatever hospital issued stuff you have. So when you do that on your last day of employment, that is your exit interview, you know, and it can be long and however you want to make it, but when you hand in your keys and your badge and everything, they're going to say, hey, why are you leaving, you know, and that could be something the district could utilize, because I would imagine your employees do maybe have a badge or something they would have to hand in.
We do, so this is data from a survey that we do. The other area that we have that information, it doesn't result in the interview that you're talking about, which is, that's like the gold standard. But we do, when we process the transaction in terms of we process their paperwork for leaving, part of what's processed is the reason that they're leaving. Where we run into areas for exploration is a lot of people just give the reason of personal. So in the past, in FY22, over 60% of the people say it's a personal reason. So then here, this is to kind of fill that gap. But to your point, there's different ways to try and get better participation with this.
Yeah, and I think in professional environments, that's very standard, that people are just gonna say personal, and that's understandable, you know what I mean?
yes, we do.
That's a tough, I watched the board meeting and I saw them telling you guys, you need to improve this, but that's something very hard they're tasking you with. I mean, that's hard.
I appreciate that, thank you.
That's actually what I was going to say. What I'm sharing is anecdotal, so there's no,
Yeah.
measure of reliability in what I'm saying, except for the majority of my students are teachers. And what they often share with me when they decide to leave the district is, I would never say exactly why I'm leaving, because many of them have family members that work in the district, or they may go back to the district at some time, so they're not comfortable being completely honest. So
Yes.
that is a very difficult charge, because
It
you may
is.
never get the real reason why
Yeah.
people are leaving.
Well, and this survey is anonymous for that reason, but then it also limits what we can do with it, except for at the district level, and look for trends and look for things that we can do there.
And so one of the other things that has become more common is, I mentioned this to the board yesterday or Monday, is we are going to possibly institute some type of stay survey or stay interview. Why are people staying? Which I think has become just as important in this post-pandemic world that we're living in. Why are people staying? And if there's good reasons, we need to do more of that, obviously. So I think that's almost just as important as exit interview. information.
Rob, I'm just gonna ask
Sure.
everyone to hold questions to the end because I'm looking at time and I want you all to be able to present all of your information. So if everyone can just hold on to those, write them down, and we'll make sure that they
We only
get
have-
addressed.
Yeah, 6 or 7 more slides, so we'll move along. So our next slide, it
Sorry, I'll
shows.
let someone in now, okay.
Okay. This is sort of a nationwide view, not sort of, it is, from October. And the question that was asked is if your district or school has struggled, what have you done otherwise to help address the shortage of employees? And of course, the first one is asking current employees to take on more duties. And we've done that here. In fact, we have through collective bargaining, really created a lucrative, the ability for teachers to fill in for teachers during their planning time. And we've made that, the incentive to do that has become obviously more pay. And so we've negotiated that through a memorandum of understanding with the teachers union. And we're starting to see the fruits of that, albeit it is quite expensive. And we're using dollars from the federal funds that we were provided for the pandemic. And so they're not limitless. So we're concerned about eventually running out of that money, and then we're back maybe in a similar boat. So some of the other things here that we've done are Suzette's World, posting on social media, job fairs. You wanna speak a little bit about that?
Sure, so job fairs has obviously changed within the past few years. So I've been with the district in recruitment since 2014 or 15. And really, at that time, at the beginning, we were always doing in-person events. And then that was great because we had the opportunity to talk to candidates in person and engage with them in a conversation for possible interest in teaching positions. However, we had to shift during the pandemic to virtual events, and the difference with the virtual events, the candidates have to now come to you. So we're no longer able to be somewhere we can sell the district. We had to sell ourselves through social media essentially, and then try to make a personal connection when they sign up with us at virtual events. But we're excited to say we're hosting our in-person event again this April, our big job fair for teachers. That was an overwhelming response from our principals saying that they wanted this event back in person. We know that's where we get the biggest bang for our buck is connecting with people face to face, so.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And it's funny because probably 5 or 6 of them down, we're doing things.
Yeah.
Volunteers, that's been another issue because of the pandemic, having them in our schools. We have allowed them back, so there is some of that. But obviously raising wages, we're in the middle of collective bargaining right now with our 2 unions, taking a little bit longer than we thought it would, but we sort of got off to a slow start. I didn't come on board till September, so there was a bit of a delay. But that's obviously something that we use social media very effectively, I believe. Contracting out certain functions, well, we haven't necessarily done that. I'm not prepared to say we're going to do that, but there are certain things we're looking at, like for guest teachers. There's agencies that have been in our ear saying, why don't you use us instead of having your in-house folks do this work to try to get guest teachers. So most of these things we've explored also. So keeping people, and I've told the board every 2 weeks when I appear in front of them, it's more important to keep the people we have right now than to actually recruit new people. So these are some of our strategies. These are strategies also from a Harvard Business Review article from November that employers are using around the country. And some of them are near and dear to my heart, and I know near and dear to Ms. Fisher's heart, like the second from the bottom bullet, take better care of employees and their families. Well, that may be something that doesn't cost us a lot of money to do, and you can do it. Embracing flexibility, that's hard in a K through 12 school district. Obviously, teachers don't have the amount of flexibility that others might have in this organization, but there are a significant amount of employees that aren't in schools that we can embrace flexibility with, but we can also try to do it with teachers. So elevating the company's purpose, I mentioned to the board when we did this presentation, this is something that they can help us with, which is to elevate the purpose of this organization and put that on display every 2 weeks in front of the public. Incentivizing loyalty, I mean, that's important for any company. You want your employees to be loyal, so we have to try to figure out ways to do that. We have some more local ways we're trying to do that in some slides here, which I think was one of the genesis of why you wanted us to speak here today, so. So here's some of the things we've done and are proposed, and maybe some of the proposed we've already started, but retention bonuses are something that are not just on, we've done them already and they're ongoing. Our support personnel have received a $1,000 bonus. They're going to receive another $1,000 bonus on March 31st if they're employed and actively working on March 15th. So they are going to receive a retention bonus then, and they also are going to receive a retention bonus on the last day of this, or actually it'll be paid in July, but if they're with us on June the 2nd, which is the last student day, they will be eligible to receive up to another $1,000 bonus, but they cannot use between now and the end of the school year, which is it's less than 50 days now, they cannot use more than 5 sick days. So this is an incentive for people to come to work. Obviously, if they have COVID, that's another story. We have an agreement with the unions that you can use up to 10 days for COVID if that's what happens, but so this is just something we agreed upon a couple of nights ago with the support union. That's also part of bargaining. The teachers, were in conversation.
I'm sorry, is this for teachers or?
Support staff.
Support
The
staff, okay.
teachers, we are in conversation, we have bargaining again on Monday night with them. We have discussed, they have asked for a $4,000 bonus to be paid over a period of time. Some of which will be retention because it wouldn't be paid obviously now. But if they're working in the fall, if they're working in January of next year, possibly that's how that would be structured. So we're using the federal money from the pandemic relief to pay these bonuses to retain employees. Expanded mental health wellness initiatives. As recently as 2 weeks ago, our principals were provided a bunch of materials from our wellness department that's in insurance and benefits, which is a fabulous group of people. Heather Parker is our director of wellness. She's fantastic. And one of the things I emphasized to them when we came back in January is mental health. And our chief of academic services is fond of saying that he thinks everybody has been traumatized. And I agree with him in some fashion from what we've all been through over the past 3 years or so. And they continue to be traumatized, so we have expanded our mental health wellness initiatives through some initiatives. District office staff support for schools, so we have come up with academic services, a Google Doc that allows staff down here, mainly support staff, to volunteer, if you will, although they're getting paid their normal pay, to help out in schools when there's significant shortages, whether that's in the lunchroom, in the office, during parent pickup and drop off, times when schools really need help. I've talked about stay interviews and exit interviews. Professional development obviously is a huge component of an education institution, and we have ongoing PD, a lot of it in this organization. It's really expanded, honestly. When I left here in 2019 and came back this year, it's amazing how much it's expanded. So kudos to those that have done that. Some of the proposed things we're thinking about doing or are going to do, exploring flexible schedules. That would be for mainly people in this building. And that may mean a work from home model in some fashion, like a lot of companies that maybe you're familiar with have gone to. And that wouldn't necessarily be all the time, a hybrid model of some type. Guest teacher pay and benefits, we have a task force in human resources that is working on bringing some suggestions to me about teacher pay, guest teacher pay and benefits. We struggle to attract guest teachers, and a lot of it's because of the daily rate and some other things. So we are, and that's not far off. I'll probably be bringing that to the board in the next few meetings, hopefully something that's tangible in that respect.
Leave
Yes.
time, because that's one of my big things that
Yes.
I wanna bring up as an idea.
Leave time?
Yep,
Yeah.
leave time for that discussion, because it's,
Yes.
I think we've got an answer.
For the guest teachers?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Additional career paths, what that is referring to is when individuals are employed here, they shouldn't be stuck in a job that they were hired at, even a teacher. There should be opportunities for people to move up. We know from all of the data out there that that's what individuals are looking for, that's what employees are looking for. They're going to work for employers that offer career paths to furthering their careers. expanded diversity, equity, initiatives and inclusion initiatives. That's important to people today, especially young people. They want to work for an employer that has DEI initiatives. Fostering employee engagement. This is something that seems so simple, but telling our leaders, please embrace and talk to your people, communicate with them, engage them, show them love, show them kindness. So important, and that sort of also follows with the final bullet there on the right. Next slide, Joe. So this is from SHRM, Society of Human Resource Management, which is a fantastic organization around the country. 65% of executives said they were very or extremely concerned about their organization's ability to recruit new talent following news of the Omicron variant. So this has had a lingering effect on the school district, and we're hopefully working our way out of it. So Suzanne can talk about this slide. This is somewhat humbling.
So just for the sake of time, I'll try to be as quick as possible. So that 83,000 number you see at the top, that is the total number of students who are graduating from a college of education back in 2019. And out of that 83,000, 20,708 identify as in a race other than white. So our teachers from diverse backgrounds are definitely, the pool is getting a lot smaller. That 83,000 number, I want to take you back to it. So that was from 2019. If you looked at the data from 2008, that number was well over 100, I think it was 101,000. So and Dr. Stork, you probably know that. So the number of students that are graduating from college of education are very
And the number on the right is from Florida colleges,
Yeah,
right?
so
in
the
2019.
4,362 is the teachers who graduated from a college of education in Florida.
And Suzanne, a lot of times we get questions about, well, what about our local colleges? Why can't they give us enough teachers? So tell us the number we hire and the number they can produce.
Okay, so
What a great year.
actually, so this Friday we'll be, we're excited to attend FSW's College of Education Fair. They're a great partner to us, and most of their students are interns here in our school, but we have about 45 students who are graduating in the spring. And the spring is our largest cohort. So 45 students who feed into 5 counties, there leaves us with a small number of teachers. And then FGCU is about 100 or so teachers that are graduating. And so again, they feed into.
And some of them leave the area.
Yeah, and that's another thing. When I started back in 2015, when I would ask the students from Florida Gulf Coast, how many of you are from Lee County? Most of their hands would go up. Most of the room were Lee County graduates. Now when you ask that, it's the complete opposite. So most of the students that are graduating are students from other counties in Florida, and they tend to go home for the most part.
And what's an average number that we hire over the summer?
Oh gosh, that number it varies. I would say maybe 50% total, maybe less than that of the
No, I
students.
mean, what's the percentage of openings that we have over the summer that we're trying to hire?
Oh gosh, over the summer, maybe like 400 or 500
Yeah.
openings, yeah.
With such a small pool.
Yeah, and our district, as you all know, is continuing to grow. We're about to open a new, build a new elementary school, so it's, gotta find attractive ways.
So what do applicants expect? So this is similar in a lot of ways to the retention piece, but most of this data is based probably on young people that are graduating with college degrees or otherwise. And this is somewhat what they expect, flexibility in their ability to work. They don't wanna they wanna be able to have leave in some fashion. If they need to take leave to take their children somewhere or deal with a family member, family leave is important in for a lot of employers as an attraction. I don't know if you're aware, but Florida statutes dictates the type of leave we can offer, so we're somewhat stuck in that area, but there's other things we could do for flexibility. Frustrating candidate experience are deal breakers. We know that the first impression you make is sometimes with Suzette's department at a recruiting event, but if it's not, it's online. And so our website, we think is good, but it can always be improved, because if people have to click around 45 times to apply for a job, they're not going to. Safety and health, this has sort of become a major factor after the pandemic. People want to know that they're in a safe and healthy environment. And I'm not gonna, get any more political than simply saying safety for teachers in schools is important. In a society where every person has a gun, it seems. So that's important also. Benefits are more important than perks. We've learned that through our benefits folks and insurance and benefits, It's not all about that, no, but it's also not about, oh, we have a great gym or something like that. It used to be, I mean, Google and some of these companies kind of created that expectation, but it's more about what you can offer folks on a regular basis. Reputation of diversity and social responsibility are priorities. That's, for our young people, I have an 18-year-old daughter. I mean, that probably would be a paramount thing for her when she graduates college and wants to go to work for an employer. She's gonna probably go to work somewhere where she feels like those things are respected. And certainly in a K through 12 school district, you would hope those are priorities. And most of the time, I think they are here. Growth opportunities, the same thing. I mean, do I have a chance to move up? I might want to start as a teacher, but I also eventually want to be a principal. Do we have a structure for that? Do we have a way for a paraprofessional to move up? Do we have a way for a bus driver to move up? Those are all important things for applicants, and they expect those things now. So it's not, oh, great, we do this. No, well, you should do that. That's what you would get from an applicant today. Shelley.
Okay, so for recruitment side, we don't do this work alone. I'm very proud to say that we have a cohort of other recruitment departments from other districts that I connect with at least on a monthly basis. We have a group chat going on, but we talk to Polk County, Pinellas, St. Lucie. We also speak to Collier County, and so we're always in conversations about what are best practices in recruitment, how are things going in your counties. So ongoing, what we're doing right now, we're doing some targeted in-person events. I'm excited to say we started a new series, what we call Social Lee, which is a networking event that our team has started doing. We go out to restaurants and bring the community in and talk to people about careers and education. So sometimes we bring principals with us, sometimes it's just our team, but it's really a way for us to go out and talk to people about what kind of career opportunities are here in Lee County. And then also social media campaigns. We're very deliberate with our social media. We're intentional with what we put out there. And we monitor the click-to rate to see what actually is working for us. And then virtual events. So that's obviously the new world, what we're living in. So the great thing about virtual events is we can host these on a more frequent basis from the courtesy of our offices, or sometimes we try to make it exciting if we're doing a virtual event with teachers who are up north in the cold. We will take our computers out to the beach and be in front of the beach and interview teachers from there so that they can see the beautiful background and the weather that we live in. We are expanding our partnerships with the various colleges and universities to provide internship opportunities. We're so grateful for FSW and FGCU with the interns that they provide us, but we're able to also provide internship opportunities for other colleges here in Florida as well as outside of the state. And then also we've streamlined our application process. So we've made that a lot easier for applicants to be able to see and apply for teaching positions. And then we've been able to waive some licensing fees for certain staff. Some things that we're working on, some initiatives, are some recruit bonuses. So, I mean, relocation is a big thing. So that's one of our biggest fears. You know, it's been something we've talked about how cost of living is increasing, and now it's hit us and we're here. So we are in conversation about how can we attract people here, but be able to pay them to be able to come and afford their, first, last, and security deposit. So it's definitely something that's real to us and at the forefront of our work. As well as flexibility. I know Rob has, talked about that, so I'm not going to hone in on that too much. As well as some employer provided benefits is what we want to propose. And then other avenues for advertising and recruiting. So, right now we do a lot of things on social media, but we are exploring ways to advertise, kind of like the traditional route, whether it's on billboards or if it's,
Buses.
Yeah, on buses, which I think we kind of do now, but we're always open to new ideas of how we can get, our career opportunities in front of the community.
So just to highlight the third proposed bullet there, we have talked about, I don't know if you know, and you may not know this, but we don't provide family coverage for insurance, medical insurance for families. Employers have to pay for that, so
And
we
it's
are,
very expensive.
yes, and so we are exploring ways to try to mitigate that and possibly provide some semblance of coverage for families. The other thing is possibly providing disability insurance paid for by the district and not from the employee. So those are a couple of things that are in the hopper. We hope we have money to do in the future, but those are the additional employer provided benefits that we've been exploring. That's it.
All right.
We're a little bit over, but we started late, so.
You guys have an impossible job. because I have 2 sales positions open right now that have been open for 4 months, and they're $100,000 plus, and we are getting
Unbelievable.
nowhere near it. So I couldn't imagine trying to hire somebody at $47,000 trying to do it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just, it's very, very tough right now hiring. So a couple things.
Sure.
I'm in the benefits business. I've
Okay.
talked to the
Yeah.
insurance department
Yeah.
before. There's a conflict of interest, so I can't get.
I hear you.
But to add family benefits, the reason why family benefits are so expensive is because the majority of claims come from the families
Yes.
when they're on the
I
plane.
do.
So you guys are self-insured through in an ASO model. So just keep in mind that your claims will, although it's very expensive, your claims will go way up when you start adding spouses and dependent kids at a better rate, a more attractive rate. So the substitute requirements. To be a substitute teacher, what are the requirements?
Yeah, sure. So the requirements right now are 60 semester hours.
Yep.
That's basically, and then you have to obviously first apply online, and be fingerprinted, but really it's just, the requirement you have to have is that 60 semester hours.
So my staff has talked about it many times. I've got 2 in high school, 1 in 6th grade, and I'm always good friends with all of the administrators at the schools. I'm really good friends with the high school principal, and everybody thinks that this would be a great idea, but we need to try to figure out if there's any way to get around the 60 semester hour requirement. And the thought process here is this: you go out and get, and I say we, go out and get local businesses in the community. I always have 2 or 3 staff in my office every day that they've worked for me for 15, 20 years, and I've got 600 employees right now. I've got 2 or 3 that would always be saying, hey, you know what, I'll go into that school and be a substitute teacher today, and I'll pay them. I would treat it like jury duty, all right? So they've been called to go to Bonita Springs High School today, they're gonna teach a marketing class, so they're gonna teach that, and they're on my payroll, they're checking at the school, just like as if they were working, going to jury duty. It would require no additional pay from the school district, so now you've got substitute teachers, or I think they call them guest teachers these days, right? So you've got guest teachers that are from the community, local businesses as partners, so we find 20, 30, 40, 50 employers in town, because we always have that additional body or 2 or 3 in our staff load. The thing that gets you is 60 semester hours. I may have I may have a man or a woman that's worked for me for 15 years in my accounting area. They may not have 60 semester hours, but as long as they pass the background check and you get a community partner, a business partner like me that says, hey, you know what, yep, we know them, he's worked for me for 20 years, and I'm gonna put him into the schools once a week, and I'm paying for it. I think it would be an incredible model. It would save the district. I don't know how much the district pays or spends or what the budget dollar is for guest teachers. But if you could convert 10% or 20% of them from community businesses, I think it's a win. I'm paying that person no matter what, right? So they're in my office either doing my work or they're at Bonita Springs High School. And I say to them, hey, Sally, you're going to Bonita Springs High School on Wednesday. Now, obviously, the emergency ones where it's 6 o'clock in the morning, that's your staff. But the one where you know a teacher's out Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you go to Brian, hey, I need one of your staff members Wednesday, okay? You go to Herb Reynolds and you say, I need one of your staff, the people that we've already background checked, we need somebody on Thursday. And I know my staff, I know myself. I mean, I'd love to go in and do it. But I think that you need to be more amicable to get rid of that 60 semester hours, just because it would open it up. But it's not a person that's a brand new employee that we don't know, right? We vet them.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, that's a very creative,
That's a great.
I mean, it's great. I thought coming here tonight, I hope some people have some ideas, because it would be very helpful,
Yeah,
so.
and I'd be
thank
more
you.
than willing all my customers are partially self-insured. I have hundreds of customers in Southwest Florida, and I can guarantee you I can go to the next 10 that I meet with in the next 2 weeks and say, hey, they're doing this pilot program for Southwest Florida. Will you give an employee or 2? And I know every one of these owners would say, Brian, I'll just keep paying them. They don't have to pay them that day, we'll send them there.
All right.
I think it's a good idea.
We'll be reaching out to you.
And I've talked to Jeff Estes about it, and
Okay.
he thinks, he's like, it's.
Oh, I'm sure Jeff does, yeah.
That was great, thank you.
So, sorry, Lucinda's had her hand up for
Okay.
a really long time.
And so does Raymond.
I just didn't know if you guys could see them.
That's not okay. Actually, as a small business owner as well, I would do the same. I would be more than happy to also have, my team members come in and volunteer. So I would definitely agree that's a great idea. And, in the insurance world, sometimes you may not have someone, as you mentioned, they've been in insurance for 15 years, extremely knowledgeable in that sector. However, they may not have those 60 hours. Their licenses are a little different. So I think that's a great idea. Another thing I wanted to mention is, you guys, my space in the past and my background in the past is actually HR and recruiting. So I'm very passionate about the discussions that you guys are having this evening. So I do have some suggestions, or even some questions. Do you guys keep a list, a recruiting list of retirees at all? Anyone, obviously, because, they're collecting their pension, they can't come back for 12 months, but do we have a running list of anyone who might be interested in maybe coming back once those 12 months are over?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've actually have reached out to them before, especially with the guest teaching opportunity.
We've also had conversations, we're not there yet, about possibly doing a recruiting bonus for retirees to try to get them to come back. The dilemma is in doing that, how much of a commitment are they willing to make and how long are they willing to stay? So, because you're spending good money to incentivize them to come back, but we would have to have a commitment from them, so, that is something.
The reason why I ask is that sometimes, for example, non-instructional, right? They have to go into drop within a certain amount of time or they lose that eligibility. So a lot of times they're stuck in a situation where they've got to retire, right? In order to meet that commitment, that deadline. But they may want actually, a lot of the people I talk to, they want to come back and go back to work after a year. I don't know if there's a list or a recruiting list or a pipeline or something like that, that might be helpful. That just have to run that out there. I didn't know if you guys were already doing that.
Yeah, what we're up against too there, and I'm not trying to make excuses, but the reasons teachers leave or retire, a lot of it has to do with societal things that are happening in schools, and so.
Or discipline,
Yes.
insurance.
So, you're saying what, yes, so having someone.
All of the above.
Having someone come back into that fire it takes a special person for sure.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about like that person, it may not be a lot of people, right? I agree with you, there's definitely a lot of reasons why they're like, okay, I'm done. But there might be some, a couple people that we could, sprinkle in there that are great, that really, again, non-instructional perhaps, and they, had to leave, that could be principal, for example, that, again, they have to meet that deadline, and then they want to come back, and they're okay with coming back to be a teacher. That was one. Recruiting fair, I don't know if you guys have considered or thought about doing like a huge event where it would actually also encompass the community, like Vermeer Arena or something like that. I know in the past I've done a pretty huge recruiting event, and we blasted it on a bunch of different avenues. It was in the local community, and it was actually for the banking sector, but we used a big space, and now it's Fritz Arena, back then it was Germain. But it was, an avenue where we were able to set out different booths of different types of positions. How would we do that work?
Yeah, I think our hope is so we could get there. Sort of the planning around the pandemic has obviously limited some of that, but we used to, back in 2005, 6, 7, we had it at the harbor side. Back then it was the harbor side. Yeah. And it was a huge event, and it was all hands on deck, and we ended up with, I used to do the contracts as the attorney, and it was we would end up with a lot of recruits back then, so hopefully we can get back to those types of events, sure.
Yeah, so I just didn't know if we were kind of open up at this point where you guys were able to do that, but it's great that you have done that in the past and it's been successful. The other thing you mentioned, people were leaving because of drop. I wasn't sure if you guys were open to doing extensions or if that's already being considered.
Yes, It is. We'll take anybody we can get at this point, so of course, yes.
And then you guys were talking about Dropbox, like, surveys,
Yes.
and again, I don't know if you're already doing this, but one of the thoughts I was thinking, and I think someone mentioned maybe they had to turn in their keys and their badges, obviously, which they have badges and things put in or whatnot, but in having a Dropbox, like a confidential Dropbox, where something is sent to them in advance, and part of the process of them turning it in is they take it, and then the principal is not the one in charge of taking those out, maybe there's a different school liaison or someone else that would partner with you guys in order to collect the items from that Dropbox. And if you even wanted to put one in the teacher's lounge in order to, if you have a school that's, for whatever reason, the morale's not good, maybe having, suggestions on like improvements, changes, recognition. But I was thinking Dropbox because that way it kind of is confidential. I know the reason why I wanted to go, so.
Great ideas. Thank you.
Ron, you had something?
Well, Remy, I think.
Oh, Remy,
yeah.
Remy, did you?
I know
I
Dr.
got
Schwartz
to
too.
unmute. It's crazy in here with doggies and everything. I just want to tell you guys, thank you. Recruiting is hard. I can hear your passion, and I love some of the out of the box ideas that I'm hearing here tonight. What you guys are tasked with is hard. I can't even imagine what you're tasked with in education. A couple ideas I wrote down is, I would suggest don't be scared to rebrand teaching. When you go to the grocery store and you see like your old favorite snack and it's in the new wrapper and it's like the same thing you've eaten for years, but it's like looks exciting.
Yes.
Maybe that's what education needs to do. Take out the great aspects of education and use that in your marketing stuff. Like, they get summers off, they get 2 weeks of Christmas, they get spring break, they get a lot of holidays. Yeah, the pay's not great, but there's a lot of perks for teaching. Highlight those. Maybe if you could get some of your current teachers who are just fueled with passion about their field to write op-eds in the news press, talk about what they love about it. I can help you guys with that if you want somebody from the community to help with that. I think that would be great to get some of your local teachers praising the field because we hear so much negativity. So I'd love to see that culture shift and get some positive things in the field. That was another thing I had. And I'm not sure how you guys do recruiting. I don't know very much about that, but I don't know if you have recruiters that specialize in hiring teachers, specialize in hiring bus drivers, and kind of break it down like that.
Yes.
That's another kind of out of the box way that I think you can have a great person that's so good at attracting teacher talent, only focus on that. So that's my thoughts. Thank you guys, great presentation.
Thank you, Ramy, those are great ideas. The final one, boy, if we just had
More people.
5 or 6 more people in recruiting. We're on a shoestring with 2 or 3 people in a department. So,
Ramy, I do want to add, this is Suzette, it was really refreshing to hear you say all the positive things about teaching because something that I've been thinking about has been, we hear about the terminations and people leaving, but we also don't talk about the 5,700 teachers who are returning to work every day. So I'm curious to find out what's their why, like why are they coming back, right? What brings them back to the classroom every day? So thank you for bringing that up.
And a lot of it, I think teaching just needs a little rebranding.
Yeah, I love that, thank you.
Well, and focusing on the impact you make on a child's life,
Yeah.
which that's the only thing that brings most people back.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, we know from the surveys from the instructional staff that the number one reason that they stay is for the work itself.
Yeah.
And that's part of that rebranding of you're changing
It's
children's
fulfilling,
lives,
right?
right?
It's fulfilling.
I think Ron,
Yeah,
Ron, you
Ron.
had something.
And I was just gonna say this, and we were talking about a little bit when you walked in.
Yeah.
I'm speaking from a developer standpoint. So a couple of years ago, I got into real estate development in this area, and it was right during the beginning of the pandemic. And it was before the prices went crazy. And over the last 18 months, everything's been sold. And so in knowing that, I would suggest that the district partner with a developer to focus on building housing for your staff. Although you're not in the building business, you're in the employment business. And when you talk about benefits, there's no bigger benefit than rent that's sustainable and not having to worry about where I'm gonna live at or how I'm gonna pay for my rent. And it's something that the district can partner with somebody on, and they don't have to become a management company, but you can become part owner of it, and it benefits your employees. I've had the same meeting with the hospital about the same thing, because the reality of it is, builders don't build for your comfort, they don't care. So they don't care if people can afford to live in Immokalee or Fort Myers. So the suggestion is, you got a lot of land, which is value. So try and partner with builders that will build by you providing them with the land, which is of value, which is how you make the projects affordable.
Sure.
And NCH did that about, 7 to 10 years ago? They have housing. for
Yeah, and
veterans.
we've explored it over the last decade and a half.
It's only gonna get worse.
And we have been contacted by the county.
Oh, well.
The county's exploring it again.
Well, here's what happened too, in San Francisco, Amazon and Google got so big, developers came in and bought everything. They just had to invest $2 billion into building housing for their employees, because it's so bad. Disney World just bought 20 acres of land to build 1,000 units for their employees.
But they have $2 billion to do that.
But this is what I'm saying.
Yes.
It's not something where you have to, there's plenty of developers that build every day.
No, I'm talking
It's what
about
I'm
the
saying.
money, Rob.
But I'm not, no, they got money. I'm saying you guys have the other value of the dirt. You got land, and all of it can't be for schools. And so I'm saying partner with somebody to make it make sense.
Yeah.
You know, partner with the hospital, they need
I
housing
would be
too.
out of, that's why we have a planning department. I would be out of my,
Well, I'm giving suggestions.
I'm all for anything that attracts employees, believe me. And I will say this, just to illustrate your point, we have some programs in the hopper trying to get teachers here, from other countries even. But one of the prohibitions is gonna be housing. I mean, where are they going to live? I mean, I had an email from Ms. Fisher today, I think, where a teacher's rent is going up like $650. I mean,
We had Cameron Wayne at one of our
Sure.
club meetings here last week. And we asked him to come and speak on the hottest issues. Of course, water is the number one issue, and he always talks about water. He's really involved in water. But believe it or not, Ron, his first topic was affordable housing.
Good.
And guess what we talked about?
What's that?
We talked about the land in Estero on 3 Oaks, where you're not building. What a great place to have a model.
Well, I just showed Ms. Fisher, they got 118 acres over off of Ortez Avenue too.
Yeah, you got the commissioners that are tuned up to this affordable housing. Everybody's reading it all.
And just to say this too,
yeah,
again,
might I
guys,
suggest
no,
that Cindy ask the people to come here that deal with that type of thing? I mean, have
we should.
a group to come here.
And just so you guys know too, we bought 20 acres of land that we're developing workforce housing, and that's our goal. And so I'm speaking from experience and saying, looking at the problem, land helps.
Yeah.
And as a developer, you give me some land, I can go in and make it happen. We got the money.
Especially when you bought it for a song and now it's worth a whole lot of money.
You better believe it.
Back then, people complained how much it cost, so, I mean.
Now you're in a good position.
You're up. He got his copy.
I'm done.
Okay, a couple of things that I wanted to mention, the first one wasn't my idea, I believe it was something that Rainey brought up in a previous meeting. And I remembered it because it was such a good idea, she happened to be at the county and there was bus drivers that had been hired that were trying to get their, CDL,
CDL, yes,
CDL,
yeah.
and they were waiting in line and she facilitated, they had been waiting all day, and if they didn't get their license on that day, they wouldn't have been able to start, right? And she had facilitated helping this person go through that process because maybe English was a second language.
Sure.
I'm not sure what the situation was exactly, but her idea was, why can't the school district reach out to the county and see if they could create some sort of special process or facilitate those people who get hired?
With motor vehicle, you mean?
Yes, just to make it easier for bus drivers to get through that process,
Suzanne
potential
says
bus
she thinks
drivers.
someone has done that.
Okay.
I believe our superintendent, Dr.
When he was
Savage.
not-
That was a great idea, Rainey, I
Most recent?
remembered it from.
Okay, he may have done
No,
that
that
recently.
was, yeah.
He may have heard that from Rainey, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
The other thing is the rebrand teaching that Rainey mentioned, I think, because what struck me, of course, I'm in a college of education, so it struck me when you said it, Rob, is this idea of teachers want to move up. So I think part of rebranding teaching is the idea that teachers can always be developing and still have opportunities to be in the classroom, right?
Yes.
When we talk about teachers moving up, they don't always have to move out of the classroom.
That's right.
Because, there are teacher leaders and
That's right.
digital leaders in
Yes.
school and all of those things. So maybe part of that rebranding would be to talk about that staying in the classroom does provide opportunities for growth still.
Correct, you don't have to
Right,
become an
that's right.
administrator
Right,
necessarily.
Yeah.
I live with
Right.
I live with and am married to a lifelong teacher, so I agree, she never had any desire to move up at all.
I
So,
have a lot
yeah.
of people I know who want to stay in the classroom.
Yes.
So, and the other thing about Brian's idea, which I think is fantastic,
It is.
is besides getting, I'm calling it like corporate sponsors for guest teachers, you know,
There could be a catchy name, I mean,
Yeah.
it would really be a.
Sure.
But besides helping with the issue of needing guest teachers, I think it also exposes more of the community to the challenges that are in the schools and also the great things that are happening in the schools.
Sure.
When you bring people into the
Sure.
schools like that, and that is only gonna increase community support, so I think it's a fantastic idea.
Because I think you create a
exactly.
committee of the owners, the business owners, and say, all right, once a quarter or maybe twice a year, we're gonna meet with you, because my staff's gonna come back to me and go, it was crazy. The first thing I'm gonna do the next day when they get back in the office and say, how was it at Benito High
Yes,
School?
that's what they're gonna
They're
say.
gonna go, it was freaking crazy, I can't believe they do this or that, and then every 6 months
Hopefully
or
they say they
once a
wanna
year,
go back.
or they wanna go back. But I'm just saying, that's feedback then that
Yes.
from now us that would say, all right, hey, this is
Yeah.
an issue,
No, I
or
like
this
it.
is a great thing.
Yeah. So I'll just say before we're done that this has been a very productive night for us. Sometimes at board advisory committees, it's not necessary, look at Ms. Fisher, because she knows, it's not necessarily productive for the staff that comes and presents. So in my long time here, this has been one of the better meetings I've had with a group,
Well,
so
thank
I
you.
appreciate it, yeah.
We appreciate having all three of you.
Thank you for coming.
Last year, we
Yeah.
really liked the HR meeting, it was the
Yeah.
benefits of insurance meeting, so I
Okay.
especially loved it. But yes, thank
And
you.
I will say this, last night I was here till 10:15 at the board
Yeah.
meeting, and it's only 7:15, so.
Yeah, so-
It's
I'm a half hour
early
late.
day.
I'm a half hour late.
Yes.
So any other
Last night,
questions?
I didn't think we were ever gonna get out of there.
I thought this was great, I thought the questions were wonderful and the ideas were phenomenal, and so thank you for
Thank you.
doing a great job.
Thank you. And if you wanna stay around, if you want, or if you wanna get out of here way before 10:15, Ms. Fisher is gonna give her report to us.
Oh, okay.
Well, no, Rob, I think you need to stay because I mean, you know.
Actually, they gave
She
a
can-
lot of reports.
She can call me tomorrow and give me a report. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Yeah, thank you, HR,
Thank
for
you,
talking
Fisher.
about some of my stuff.
Okay.
The student attendance being the best since November. The shortage and salaries, the fact that we have right now 103 vacancies. And I was also gonna talk a little bit about what they were doing with the professional development, the training and the recruitment efforts. So, there are a couple of grants that have been applied for by Career and Tech Ed. And so they're in process, and I know that was one of your items that you had presented after the last meeting in February. And so and one of the other follow-ups I have is on the comprehensive health and education program. We did reach out to other districts around the state, and there are very few districts, some much like ourselves, where there are little spots of places, different schools that may be doing some health education, but in general, there has not been any funding for that for years, really almost since No Child Left Behind. So we're looking at creative ways to facilitate the program. Ironically, at the same time, the state has passed several laws regarding things that they want us to mandatorily teach kids. All of it, so far, has been part of what the comprehensive health education curriculum is. So we continue to work on that. Regarding the mental health, I heard from Lori Brooks that she has been able to hire some more licensed mental health therapists. They had March the 2nd, they had a Wellness Wednesday program on suicide awareness for parents on Zoom. And so there's a lot going on in this district. We have people coming to the board talking about wanting to ban books and wanting to support the Parents' Rights Bill, which has recently passed and probably will be signed by the governor. And I think that some of our sister districts have taken a stand and said that we continue to not discriminate and to protect and serve all kids regardless of their race, religion, gender identity, etc. So that's another thing that we are trying to take a stand on in a tactful way. So we have hired our new superintendent, Dr. Christopher Vermeer, and last night we approved his contract along with a consultant contract that he'll be using from sometime late in March till the middle of May, and he will be sworn in on May 16th. And he will be, in the meantime, working with Dr. Savage and all of our staff to get used to the lay of the land and to find out and ascertain for himself what he thinks does work and doesn't work.
What happens to Dr. Savage?
That's under discussion. He said he's gonna let us know about it. So I think he, actually, as the interim superintendent, he did have in his contract a clause that allows him to have an equal position back again, once we hire the new superintendent in the district, and I think he is planning on staying.
Good.
As of now. Friday, March 4th, Art Walk, downtown Fort Myers. Our Fine Arts Department, Dr. Jason Tomaszewski, and many kids from our schools showed their stuff, and it was really amazing. And I think March, oh boy. Oh, March is social work month. And so we celebrate our social workers and the work that they do in our mental health arena also. And other than that, I think.
So I have one question, I didn't wanna ask another question to HR, you may not know the answer to this, but they announced this week that the high schools are gonna go back to, what is it, an 8 period or 7 period?
7 period day.
But I did see on the news, so shame on me if I just pay attention to the news and not get the real facts. But they did say that it was gonna eliminate 150 jobs.
Well, I think it would,
I don't understand why it would eliminate, but if we're trying to hire all these people, what can we do with those people instead of eliminating them?
and I think we discussed last night, during our very long board meeting that it's not gonna be an end all, be all. And that it's an idea to give high school kids an opportunity to catch up and get to graduation on time, and also to have more contact time with their teachers. There's several different schools have thought about it, and so we're getting a lot of feedback from teachers, parents, and mostly from students, high school students. So I think they're working on the details to see how it happens, but it's supposed to eliminate the need for all the class coverage and the
Right.
Get rid of some of the vacancies. I don't really know how that's gonna work.
Yeah, the crazy thing is that 2 years ago, cause I remember getting the phone call from my kid.
Yes.
The kids were up in arms about the change 2 years ago, thinking it was the worst thing in the world, and how could you be doing this to us last minute? And then now they're back to, how can you take it away from us? I mean, it's just bizarre how they've had the same fight, putting it in place and then taking it out 2 years later.
Well, they didn't take it out, 2 years ago, it didn't happen. They backed it, they were going to implement.
We suspended it 2 years ago, so now, and I
Well,
think
cause
we're
Benita's
getting-
doing a 105-minute class, or whatever it is.
84 minutes.
84-minute
Yeah, and
class.
that's district-wide, pretty much the same. So 2 years ago, they talked about going to a 7-period day,
Okay,
and there was a lot of resistance to it. Again, it was sort of about this time of year.
yeah,
And so the decision was made to wait and to talk more
Okay.
about it.
Okay.
So it came up again this year because of the number of vacancies was, well, two big things. One, the number of vacancies is making it very difficult to cover the classes and less teachers are required in a 7-period day.
So it won't be terminating the hundred
Will
fifty
not be terminating
positions,
people.
it'll just not require 150 positions, okay.
Everybody will have a job in the district. They may not be in the same school,
Right.
but they may be, just don't know. And then the second reason was the learning loss over the past 2 years. This gives children the opportunity to be with their teacher every single day instead of every other day.
Yeah.
And I need to go back and look at the PowerPoint, but it's a significant additional number of days that are added by doing that every day when you total it all up at the
No,
end of the year.
I like it, my question was the news, the media made it seem like we're getting rid of 150 teachers.
We're not getting rid of teachers.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
We don't have enough.
We'll get rid of
Get
them, All right. Any other questions?
Can I ask a question about the schedule change?
Yes.
I've researched both schedule systems pretty thoroughly, and there's definitely benefits to the 7-day schedule, and there's definitely benefits to block scheduling. I guess my question is, why would we not start with a pilot program or start this with a couple schools and see how it works and see if the data is there rather than do this? I guess I would say very rarely is one size fits all a thing. So I guess I wish I would have seen a slower rollout of this. Let's try it, see if it works, and instead of being so reactionary and just saying we're doing this with every school.
Well, and I
But I
think,
get it.
yeah, and I think it was because of the learning loss and the timeline that they went to work on it quickly, and they're gonna continue to work on it the rest of this year and over the summer to prepare and make accommodations for every group that needs certain accommodations. They've done a lot of the groundwork already and are calling in teachers and experts to kind of work on doing the scheduling and making it fit so that it allows for kids to still have their industry certifications, their ESE help, their ELL instruction. And so I think we need to wait and stay. You know, there are pros and cons to both sides. And right now, this seems like the best thing to do that we have to meet the need in a timely fashion, so.
I would encourage you guys to consider the electives in your research too, because while maybe they don't on paper help test scores, I do think music and art are so beneficial to high school kids.
And absolutely, and that's what keeps some kids in schools, and we don't want to take down our rising graduation rate either. So that is all part of the discussion, and I think that they'll work it out.
Had a couple of things. First is I neglected at the beginning of the meeting to introduce, we have a new committee member. And we can't see your face, Emily, but Emily McCarthy is on Zoom with us this evening. She is at work or needed advance notice to be able to take off from work, but she's able to join us. So Emily, if you want to say hello and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Okay. Okay, so Pierce don't have a microphone, so I know you said you thought you would be able to come to the meeting in person next time, so we'll do introductions next time around, but wanted to make sure everybody knows that you are on the call. There was also a question earlier about the absences, so I went back and looked at some from January. So we looked at day 97, I don't remember what the exact date was, but day 97 of this year, we looked at excused and unexcused absences together. There were 11,486. In FY20, so January of 20, before the pandemic hit, that number was 6,181. So there was an 86% increase in the past 2 years. That's a pretty big, significant increase.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I have two other things. The first one is, you guys made some comments tonight that we might want to consider putting into recommendation form. And then the other one is topic for next meeting, whether it's to discuss those recommendations, since we're almost at 7:30, or whether you have another topic that you would like me to work on getting some presenters here for you.
Well, thank you, Ms. Fisher, for your
Thank you.
report. I agree, I think we should make a recommendation tonight. Just my 2 words right off the bat is I think we should, if everybody agrees with it and likes it, I think we should make a recommendation to the board to review the guest teacher idea that we came up with, that we have. I think that HR was kind of excited about it, so I think that maybe we take it to the next level.
So do we need a motion?
I think so. Well, is there discussion? Do you guys agree with
I
that?
agree.
So a motion to do that, and then some discussion around
Yeah.
wording.
You wanna make the motion?
Sure, so I'll make the motion that we, what was that?
Consider removing the 60 hours.
Oh, okay, yeah, so yeah, you getting that detailed. Okay, so consider removing the 60-hour semester credit hour requirement for guest teachers and incorporate a partnership with local businesses.
So do you want those as two separate recommendations, since I know they're related? There was a time when all you had to have was a high school diploma. And then we went away from that and put the credit requirement back in. So it
Yeah,
could
I
be two
think-
separate
But
recommendations.
I think one being one recommendation, it's a compromise. You're compromising the 60 hours because you're getting a partnership.
A
with
part-
local
an
business.
employer that is putting
I
that,
would
removing
separate them.
60 hours if we weren't doing this.
Okay, so in order to
Yes.
develop a partnership,
right, yeah.
But hold on, time out.
Yep.
Time out. But if we saying that the holdup is for people because of the 60 college credit hours, but you may have somebody that's qualified and they may not be part of the partnership, say we don't do the partnership, can we not still waive the 60 hours and get quality people in?
I would say that the first rollout, my
Yes.
recommendation would be the first rollout is you have to get trusted partners within the community, business owners that say, she's worked for me for 30 years, she does not have 60 hours of credit hours, but I think she'd be a great person to be part of this program. I think
At least
we,
to pilot it and try it out.
correct, and then if it's successful, or when it's successful, then you can go out to say, hey, all right, we've removed that 60-hour requirement, there's gonna be a vetting process for the others, but I think we need it in there at first to protect it.
so maybe the first part of it is talking about the partnerships, and then the second part is consider removing the 60-hour credit requirement in order to facilitate that partnership.
Yeah, or maybe
Right.
removing the 60
Yes.
credit hour requirement for those that are part of
That are part of.
the partnership.
Partnership, yeah.
It's worth a discussion.
I think
Great
so.
idea.
I think so. And like I said, I know most businesses would treat it like jury duty. I still pay, we don't have to pay, we still all pay our employees for jury duty, even though they get their $18 or whatever it
The
is.
Atlanta School District did this 20 years ago.
Yeah,
It
I
worked
remember you
perfect.
telling me.
It worked perfectly. I didn't want to chime in because it was your
UPS,
idea.
you said UPS,
UPS, Delta Airlines, Holiday Inn, all the big companies up there are doing it.
Yeah.
And they're not sending the whole workforce out there.
correct,
Yeah, but it's a measured thing, and they each have their school adopted.
Yeah.
And they know, they work for that principal, and they know what their challenges are.
schools close to that
And they,
particular office.
and every company that sends somebody, they've already, have a history of ethics and there's no baggage.
And then that company's bought into that school, right? They become partners and relationship with the principal.
Painted the school, landscaped the school, did all kinds of stuff.
I always say it takes a village to raise a child, and I think that we have had such benefits out of our business partnerships so far, with workplace internships and that kind of thing.
Well, Bill Doberman is
We can't
like,
do it alone.
he's the best marketer of this kind of stuff. Anything he does with students, he puts on Facebook.
Yeah.
And the whole world knows about it, and that's great, because people see that, and they're gonna wanna emulate that for their business.
So Cindy, Michelle, why don't you make you're more eloquent at making the motions.
Cindy's over there, here.
I'm writing.
Right, yeah, that's what I
I'm
figured,
guessing
but yeah.
Cindy's amazing.
Yeah, she said
She
this
puts
last
it all together, no
Yeah.
matter what people say.
Do they have anything for seniors at the high school level to have them like do some level of like mentorship or internship to I don't wanna say to be a teacher, but you know, I guess I know that we have a couple programs for FGCU, but are we doing anything at like high school senior level to have them get any kind of certification?
Several of our schools have teaching academies. And so they start, you know, in sophomore year, actually. And so they then they go to nearby elementary or middle schools and they do mentorships and reading. And then they also, if they complete the teaching academy, they get tuition to FSW or FGCU.
Okay.
Cindy's writing.
Okay, so,
And you make a
If I can
post
read-
like a piece of paper.
yeah, I needed to bring a picture. So, recommend that the district develop a partnership with local businesses to provide guest teachers. As part of this partnership, consider removing the 60 credit hour requirement for those participating in the partnership. And we can refine that a little bit more, but is that the general
Yeah,
gist
and
of it?
you may wanna
Yes.
put in there the high school right, we don't wanna just go out and,
Or maybe consider requiring only a high school diploma.
correct, cause I think if you just say remove the 60
Yeah.
hours, it could be not that it's gonna happen, but a sixth grader, or somebody that has a sixth grade education.
60 hours of post-secondary. So it has to be
Has, yeah, so I'm saying remove that just down to a high school degree.
High school maybe.
Okay. All right. We probably need to get the, and I don't have do you have that written? Do you want to vote on it tonight, or you want us to send it out, let you play with it and vote on it next time we meet?
I'm fine trusting your wording, we all agree with the kind of the
Okay.
gist, right? I mean,
Yeah, I agree.
so I think it's kind of basic, although we want exact
Yeah.
wording, but we all agree on the removing the 60 hours, creating a partnership.
Okay.
Yep.
I will
So
send
do
you the
we have
exact
a,
wording in the morning, but you can go ahead and vote.
do we have a motion? I guess the motion's been made.
I'll second it.
Second it? All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, unanimous.
Awesome.
All right, future topics. I know they mentioned and Ron mentioned maybe having some, the people for the land development, I don't know,
Planning department?
the planning department, I mean, that's Bill,
Yeah, that'd be great.
Affordable housing, I think, is an important
Yeah.
topic.
I think we'd be,
Everyone's talking about it.
we'd look good if we were,
That's not just this district, there's various districts that are having that same challenge.
yeah.
It's the whole country.
I know there is a presentation on March 29th, so that will be before our next meeting, so
That's at the
we'll
board
see,
meeting.
a board meeting, on the board briefing on March 29th. And they will be talking about land parcels and future use, so this would be a good
Okay.
follow-up to that.
Good,
Perfect.
Okay, so I'll see if they can come.
bring your checkbook, Ron, you might be able to make a deal.
I'll bring those folks I know. Brian, you coming with me?
Yep, need the Chicago guy
I
coming with
sit
you?
on the Fair Housing Board for Lee County, and we have public meetings too, and there's some great ideas sometimes discussed in that. The housing issue goes beyond educators, I mean, it's the whole county, it's
Yeah.
workers everywhere.
Yeah.
All right, perfect, so we've got our
Same.
future topic for next meeting. If anybody else has any other future topics that you need, that will be the April meeting. Is that officially the last meeting? No, May is, correct. Okay, so if you have another idea that you want discussed, or if you wanna wait till April, we can decide in April, but it may help Cindy out with planning for May. So if you have any other topics that you want reviewed, maybe email Cindy?
Sure.
Okay. Is there anybody from the public here? No, no public comment.
Yep, these
All right,
people are all
any-
ours.
Good of the order?
I actually wanted to jump in. I went to the HR finance meeting that you had invited us to, Cindy.
On the 29th. No, it'll be the
The one last week, was it last week or the week before? I don't lose track of time these days. And I just wanted to share with you guys quickly some of the big discussion topics so that you guys were aware. So the medical insurance was a big topic. Being able to afford new educators, new staff, retention was pretty much the biggest topic during that meeting. They went through the shortage in teachers and why they were leaving. Actually talked about the whole surveying thing, so that was a point of topic this evening. They also spoke to the various benefits, the fact that they were self-insured plan. So that was a big topic. Medicare was another big topic. One of the things, because unfortunately the way they set it up is they had anyone that was there, they had us speak like in the beginning where they actually spoke. So I really didn't have any suggestions or anything like that until since they hadn't spoke yet. But one of the things that I wanted to share with you guys is that obviously with health insurance, and a lot of you guys that work here for Early Health in the group know that as you know, our retirees stay on the health insurance plan, it becomes more and more expensive for the school district. I will say that one of my other school districts that I support, they actually have their health insurance provider have a Medicare person on site to help transition those that are actually retiring and help them better understand their medical programs. And so I don't know if that's something at some point that we would be able to tee up for a suggestion to someone that maybe they can get a medical Medicare specialist to help them in that transition. They actually, that particular district actually also provides a stipend for them to go on to Medicare to help as well. So anyway, those were the biggest things during that meeting, and I thought I'd share it with you guys so you guys knew that unfortunately recruiting seems to be still a big topic.
Thank you, and I will check on that. I know we have a lot of specialists on site. I don't know that we have a Medicare specialist on site, but I'll check and see if anyone's.
And you can only incentivize somebody to take Medicare versus your plan if they're 65 or older.
Right.
If you do it below that, you're selecting against the government and it's illegal.
All right.
All right, anything else, go to the order? All right, we don't have to vote to adjourn. I learned that a couple months ago.
Thank you, everybody online, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Good night.
Thank you.
Yeah, we got all these drivers.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, he owes us